Well, hello again, and here we go again, finally, hopefully, to get this thing off the ground. Uh, I made a couple of changes to our dialogue because I want to try and point something out. I added another text control, and this one has the password property. Well, password here. Now this text should be unavailable to anyone outside of our window, outside of our process, and that appears to be the case. Oops. When I run this thing, get rid of those things, get rid of this. So here's something anyone can see, and here I'll type in something secret. Okay, I click OK, and that's the top secret message I typed in, and here's what we could see. And notice when I do this, something meaningful. Something secret. Run the spy program. It should not be able to extract this text. If it did, that would be a security flaw. And here it is. Can't take it out. It just gives nothing. One of the things, by the way, I think that unavailable is the secret business. If I choose this one, no, maybe not. These window bytes are those values that we want to set. One of them will be a type of this pointer. And the entry which we have to set is this one. Remember, I wasn't sure if we were supposed to use this one or this one, but you can see just by the name. This is the GW stands for get window long pointer, and DW stands for dialog window. So this is the same as this, but for dialog instead of regular windows. Now, okay, so I just wanted to show you that first. We don't need this. Well, maybe we can use it for reference, though. Take it all together. Save it off. Down here. Comment this away. We might need to refer to that later to figure out what to do. Now I've already written out much of what we want to do here. So I've designed the outline of this class. Whether or not you want to do it this way yourself is up to you. Now, I'm saving some of this data off from the some of it from the constructor and some of it which will occur later on. This particular naming, I use this naming, even though it might change, because this naming convention is used by MFC. So anyone who's using this class and is familiar with MFC would immediately recognize what that stands for. It stands for the handle to window of this object. I didn't use the same naming convention for this, because nobody ever cares about that part. One important detail is to disable. We want to disable assignment, copying of these objects. It doesn't really make sense to copy objects of this sort of type. These are kind of, it's not like a string or something. It's a process. So you don't really copy processes, I guess, is one way to look at it. Also, the fact that there are virtuals involved, and there may be top secret information, as you just saw in here. So we don't want to allow any copying. Okay. Now I looked through some of my other code, and this is the name I use for the dialog proc, which I like this name because it has a kind of, it feels like a, not something that you would use yourself. Just that stub, sounds like a placeholder or something. Not a placeholder, but something you shouldn't touch. It's private anyway, static. This is some default constructing. In fact, all this function does is call this function. So if you pass in an identifier number, it uses this makeInt resource macro as usual, and stores this stuff off. So nothing in these things, nothing happens. All this is doing is filling in these bits of data. Dialog proc, I chose all small letters, shortened version of the function, and this function must be implemented. There's a little description, return true if handled, false otherwise. Init dialog, returning false prevents system from setting the default. I think I got that backwards, isn't it? It should say true. Hang on a sec. Come on, it should be pretty quick on this one. Oh no. System assigns default focus only if procedure returns true. True gives default. False prevents default. So that's correct. So return false if you want to prevent the system from setting the keyboard focus. For instance, you may want to set the keyboard focus yourself. And in our case, I would like to set it maybe to that little edit control. So that'll be something we might do. Initially here I had int or unsigned int for these resource IDs. Now I could write down the same 4 functions and replace int with ltct stir. But instead of rewriting them over again, I just put this template here. Only two possibilities will find a match, and so we're okay. We can put a string or a resource ID for the constructor. Also revived is our put func, which I hope still works. Print out the function name. So console, we have one. This unimplemented, but you can guess what this will probably do. Okay, so as I said, constructor fills these values in with the values passed in, and here's our dialog proc stub waiting attentively for something to happen. And here's our do modal also with nothing filled in just yet. Now this return of -1 would be normally a return value in the case where the construction of the dialog failed. That is, if you look at the function that we're going to call, I write it in. It's almost this one. We just comment it away. Where it goes? At the top. Except it's got this param business. Now, this has been saved off, presumably, in the constructor. This too has been saved off. One of the things I do often, actually, you see how if you want to get the members up, you can do this. What do I want in this one? What's the second parameter? That was the template ID. Now, that's just annoying because I don't really want it to say this everywhere. That's implied. So sometimes what I do, and this is a pretty good case for it, is the following. I turn this into a struct. Something like that. Make it look like C. And I call the struct M. Get rid of these things. Now, well, this is no longer much of a reminder for our sorry MFC people, you lost your hint. So now, you see, I can just write M dot. Pick it up. Takes a while. Okay, see? Makes it easier to fill things in. H1 parent. And now, this is that dialog proc. Right? It should be right. That's the name of the, yeah, that's it. Okay. I shouldn't need to scope it or anything. Where am I? And this L-param. Again, I have to cast it. Anything that goes in here has to be a cast. The reason why it's forcing me to do these casts, by the way, has to do with, oh dear, has to do with, I'm going to probably get some more warnings and errors, a number define, okay, called strict. which should be in basic here, strict. If you don't define this, then it won't complain about this sort of thing. Strict forces you to cast things into the correct type, and that's really what you want, is to have as much assistance as possible when you're making your program. Okay, H instance unreferenced formal. Well, we'll do something about that. In fact, in our case, we won't need it, because you'll notice that one of these constructors doesn't even require an H instance. All it needs is an identifier. This get module handle returns the H instance of a given module. A module is like a program or a DLL, and null indicates the current module, program, or DLL, and so this should return 400,000 always. So we don't actually need that one either. There's not much really we need from this here. We may use that eventually. Now this is the outline of what we want the program to be able to do. In fact, now I have two strings, so I want to do something like what I had written there before. Something like this. But we'll get to that. Alright, now first let me just demonstrate that I can never declare one of these things. And the reason is not because I've failed to find the right constructor, but because this is abstract and it cannot instantiate the abstract class because this particular member is missing. Also, well, yeah, I better put that in. We don't want a default constructor, so what we can do is just declare it as private and not implement it, like this. Now there's a default constructor. It shouldn't complain about that anymore. Okay, now we can't access the private member, but that's okay, because we don't want that to be used. You've got to specify something about the dialog. Now, suppose I tried this. I think that was the name of the identifier. Again, we still can't use this. This dialog proc is abstract and undefined, so we can't use the base class. We have to create something of our own, and that's our intention, was to do so. Now, eventually, this part will wind up in common here. Okay, now it is our job to implement this function. In our class somewhere, we don't need the virtual keyword, it's already virtual, and just for now we can return false. And we still need a constructor. Now, our constructor, we could make a default constructor for. And in keeping with the MFC attitude about things, they usually do this. Make an enum and always use the same 3 letters so that you don't have to rewrite this over and over again for your default constructor. See, the default constructor can look like this, right? And if this value changes for another dialog, I can use the same, basically the same code, and then just use the enum for the particular dialog. As it is, I should be able now to at least declare this thing. Okay, so far so good. Alright. Now, well, let's see what happens. Let's see if this goes to the right constructor at least. I've got a put func here. You'll see it in a minute. Okay, well that's the one we wanted it to go through. And although it's got all this unnamed blah blah blah, it's using the enum. That's what we wanted. Okay. So the value is 101. That's correct. It's taking us in here. So now we're saving off these. Put it in decimal. Why is... Oh, because it's taking it as a string. Okay. Okay, so here's this. Here's our M. The other thing about that too is that you can get a listing of anything in this particular M thing. And this is now going to be set to null. And here goes that. And now we're kind of almost ready to go. Now I'm going to pause for a second here. Okay. Now there's something else I wanted to do just with the dialog itself here. With this edit control. I would like it to have more, lines. Oh, I think it's this. Yeah, okay. So now I think it should be. I don't know if this thing will all. Well, let's see. Okay, well, we can scroll. I think there's a way also to have that only come up when it starts scrolling. I don't know if that's better or worse. Auto V-scroll. I think, yeah. I wonder if I have to have both. What if I just turn this to false? Put auto V-scroll. Now what does it do? I see, but there's no thing. What if I have them both on true? I was sure there was a way to have that, to have this thing show up only if it requires it. Not that it matters so much. Well, that's not important. The thing is, I just want to make sure we can put more text in there, and I guess I'll have to leave that on. Left scroll bar. Scroll bar. There must be a scroll bar. I know I'm blind with these things. I'm usually staring right at it, and I don't see it. Oh well, whatever. I think that means scroll bar. This did. Well, oh, I see. It would show up on the wrong side for it to show up, but it doesn't show up. Now, see, this is one definitely that you want to show up only if it's necessary, right? Like edit, notepad. If I make this big enough, that, oh no, it's still there. Okay, I guess that's normal then. Alright, forget what I said. I want it back. But of course, you can turn these things on and off as you go along in your program. So if you want to have that behavior, that is possible. Okay. Alright. Now the reason I wanted to have that bigger was so that we can, copy and paste and put lots of text. Alright. Oops. Go away. Get rid of this. Now this is what we want our program to look like. That's what we would like it to do. In typical fashion, MFC fashion, make these variables public. You don't have to, you could make this private and just have a function that returns that string. I don't know what you prefer, but I'll leave it like this. So, I don't know, data. Okay, now we've got this do modal thing, and oh yeah, about this -1. Okay, this thing returns -1 if there's any failure. In fact, what we want to do is just return this. That's all do modal should do, right? And so return value of -1 indicates an error. So you should never really call end dialog with -1 as the return value. We can add an assert or something for that. Now, calling this dialog box param, as you saw before, is the same as calling dialog box, when this thing now has meaning. All these things are going to have meaning. Now, what do we want to do first? Well, Well, the first thing is what we can say in here is that we have a pointer to one of these things. We can call it this pointer. So now you see what's happened is that now we've managed to get this pointer into the dialog prop. And so now we have a way of connecting this pointer with the handle to window. At this point, we don't have any handle to window, right? And neither do we at any point here. We have to be inside the dialog prop. Okay. Now, what do we want to do with this pointer? Well, firstly, without doing anything at all, we would like to save this inside the internal data structure of this dialog, and we can use that set window long pointer thing. So set window long. I know there's a problem with this. There's something wrong with one of the declarations, and it'll come up, I'm sure. Handle to window, which we have. An index. Now, since we're a dialog, we want to put it in the dialog window long pointer user area. And a value. Any long pointer value. What can I type? Oh, I could say L param if I wanted. I wonder if I can just say L param. It should. Now that might be the problem though. Oh. See, because this is defined as a long pointer, right? So I don't even need the cast here at this point. And we could just return, was it true or false? False prevents. We don't want to return false, we want to return true. Okay, now I haven't really done anything, but the dialog should go. And this stir result won't have anything in it. But at this point, it should compile at least. It should bring up our dialog, uncentered again. I'm not using this yet. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, there it is. Alright. And again, we're back to the thing doesn't do anything. However, we're one step closer. Oh no. Let's see, I'm curious. It's my own curiosity what this SpyXX says. Nine 5FE. See, now that sounds like that could be the thing I just set. How do I find out? I put a breakpoint here. No, I can't. I can't get out. I put a breakpoint here. Oh, but okay, start over again. We'll see what the value is. X 84. Oh, I haven't signed it yet. 95 FE something something something. Yeah, 95 FE7C. Okay. Now I bet you if I refresh this, then that's going to be the same number. Yeah, it is 7C. It's the same. So it turns out that offset within the Windows data structure is at offset 8. And that's just a pointer value, which we can retrieve. And anybody else could retrieve. However, that's in our address space, and if they want to read that data, they would have to have sufficient privilege to do that. I don't think that any regular program other than a debugger would be able to do that. Although there are debuggers out there. Alright, so we've seen now that it did get into the window. Now, how do we get it back out? Well, let's take the WM command message as an example. Usually, well, I find it reads better this way. Anyone in the world would tell you you're supposed to put this on this side because it's not an L value. And they're correct. It just doesn't read nicely for me. Okay, well, let's stick with the correct way. Now, suppose that's true. Again, now this will have already done its thing. So we should be able to retrieve, well, just generally, but anyway, in the cases where we're interested, there's no need to retrieve it every single time, at this point anyway. Equals get window long ptr maybe. Thank you. And the index notice something about this. Which made it seems to be working fine. Don't see. Hang on a second. Okay, I don't know. It seems fine to me. So this should work as far as I can tell. That should bring back our this pointer. And now, instead of handling this message ourselves, we could do some default stuff. We can say this DLG proc u message w param like this, and suppose we should return that. Okay, so we're handling just WM command. Now in our class here, we can say we only need W param for this message. I usually have a number defined for a command, like is command message. So it says WM command if low word of W param equals well, it's ID okay, right? Then now what we want to do, as I said, is extract the text. I'd like to extract the text, let's say, not result. Let's call this edit box. The big edit box. I would like to extract that text from that big edit box and put it in our local variable. Now, currently, this thing is not giving us our hwind, and in fact, this struct is private. But we don't need to make this stuff protected or public or anything. What we can do is just simplify the interface to those handles by adding a function to either a public or a protected function. I don't know. Protected is good enough. Oops. Here. There's no use. The outside world couldn't possibly use these values because by the time the thing's finished, all those handles are useless. So this is only of any use while the dialog's up and running. And I would say, here's a function you could create. Call it h1, which takes an uint identifier for a control, okay, and returns get dialog item. Now we know our handle to window, all right. That's this, and then control. Because in fact, we could call this const as well. It doesn't really, I don't know if it should be called, it should be const, because once you've got the hwind, you could modify it. So let's not make it const. Okay. So we could now, so one thing we can do in our derived class is we could do get window text. Text hwind idc edit 1, right? This is what we'd like to do, but that takes like buffers and blah 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 and so on. A better thing would be to have something that returns a string. Okay. Now that's actually more of a general use function. So let's put that, make a general purpose function of this style. It returns a string. We'll add it to common in a minute, which takes a handle to window, and that's it. It doesn't even need to be namespaced, because it's it's going to be a C++ function, and it's already got our namespacing in it. With no, we don't have to worry about the length and all that. We can handle that in here. And if you recall, L result get window text length. Okay, will get us the length, and we use the magic thing. Name text text. I think I called it that last time. Well, usually I make this actually a tiny value under debug. And you should get into this habit as well. Sorry. Size chunk size. In your debug build, make it a small value for something like this. That way you get more code coverage during the debug build. It's more often going to switch between malloc and heap alloc and stack alloc. But in the release build, it'll most of the time go to the stack, which is what you want. So we like to use this value in the debug build. It's going to be a small number, more chance of using the malloc, more code coverage. Okay, now we do the other one. Now this time, since this is going to be general, string, I want to be more careful about this. Get window text, max count, each frame. Is that all? I guess that's it. Oh, I'm not using the send message version. But this has the same properties in that it doesn't, you see, it doesn't return, not including the null character. So the number of bytes actually copied is one more than that. And we can assert now that should be true. This should also be non-zero. Well, if it is 0, we'll just return an empty string. That's not an error. That's a possible scenario. Otherwise, allocate the thing, do this. Now, if this fails, that indicates an error. And so we want to alert ourselves about it in the debug world, but it's not an error that's really worth killing the whole program over. So we should just return an empty string in that case. Now, the reason why maybe we can't get the text, maybe it's a password or something. Although it wouldn't give you the length in that case. Now, does this have an error return? If the Windows no text is 0, might be greater, but there seems to be no negative. We can insert that. Anyway, do that just to be sure. Okay, so we got the text. It should be in here. We can just return it. That's an automatic conversion from this to this. So now here we have a generalized function. Going back to our basic class here, where I added a function called hwin. How about adding this? Get text. Okay. You see how that fits nicely together? Although I still need access to that function. Where did I put it? Here it is. Which actually put this in common. Put it in the header file temporarily. There's an inline. I'll move it away. I'll move that away later. So this is available to anyone now. Alright, so now in our My Dialog, the big edit box tags equals get tag IDC edit 1. Oh, and end dialog. All these are from int. Oh, this one returns an int, huh? And they both, does this return an int? Man. Oh, happy days. I like int. Okay. Oh, now again, we need to add something to end the dialog. How about we invent a function called end dialog? This would be a void function. Can't really fail. And then we want an int ptr result. Now we want the global scope version. You see how it kind of writes itself? And you see in this procedure how it's kind of, it looks crowded here. Let me separate it and put it onto its own place here. Just so you can see, separated from all this declaration stuff. Now, here's our dialog prop, right? There's no, well, let's put this on the other side. No, I had it right. There's no reference to any hwins or anything here, right? To get the text, I just say, please retrieve the text for the edit control, and then end dialog with this identifier. I could also say cancel, or I could make a generalized thing. I could make a generalized function called is button message or something like that, or make another callback called on button. and make the default processing maybe to always end the dialog. Now, in both of these cases, we want to return true. And generally, return if it's this or this. Right? Does that cover everything properly? If it's this, return, or this, return. So if it's neither of these things, it's going to return false. Otherwise true. I think that's correct, right? If it's okay, do this thing. If it's cancel, do this thing. And both sides return true. No, neither of these are true, it's going to return false. In fact, yeah, okay, that's correct. Alright. Now, let's just see if it works. There, drop that line, and click OK, and it's not working. Well, it should end up in here, and it's not. Hang on a sec. I just realized how much time I've used. Yeah, okay, I see the problem here. We forgot to do we forgot to add this h-wind to our this h-wind value, which is the only one that hadn't been filled in yet, to our dialog. So now, hopefully, it should work. Stuff in, hit OK, and there it was, except we lost it because I don't have that thing. Key, etc. Now, I could split this into two, but I guess, well, no, I won't. This is pretty much all that you need to begin making a completely generalized thing. Yes. See? Now, this string was extracted without any reference to any handles to windows or anything in a simplified dialog procedure that we have here. It's this string is associated with that particular dialog and only that particular dialog. The declaration and construction of this class is, well, I don't know if you would call this difficult, but you know, compared with GDI plus, let's say, to me this is a little bit more on the easy side, you know, and understandable. A human can understand this, right? Now, this might have too many ifs and whatnot, but that can easily be cleaned up. In fact, we can examine the class of the item which was producing the message. And if that class happens to be the word button, we can call on button, right, instead of this dialog prop. And then somebody could override on button. Not forced override. You can have this available also. But it can be further simplified and made easier to use. Certainly this get text stuff, right? If we had an on button type thing, we could hide this value. Right? We wouldn't need to know it. That could be stored off by the parent class before calling on button. Similarly for other kinds of controls. And so the whole thing could be made very transparent and require little typing. Okay, I'm going to upload this and I'll keep working on it.